Women are the fastest growing prisoner population in the United States. The rate of incarceration for women has increased more than 700% since 1980. Currently, more than 200,000 women are behind bars and 1 million more are under some form of correctional supervision across the country. We know that women take very different pathways to prison when compared to men. Women are more likely to have been homeless or living in poverty when they're arrested. They commit different types of crimes for different reasons. They have different service needs before, during, and after custody, and they have very different motivations for change. Yet the vast majority of women's correctional intervention was designed to meet the needs of men and does not incorporate women's roles as mothers into treatment. Despite the fact that more than 80% of incarcerated women are parents, compared to less than 60% of men, and women are far more likely to have primary custody of young children. In fact, our dominant cultural narrative frames incarcerated women as selfish and reckless, women who made terrible decisions which endangered their children and ultimately left them abandoned and motherless. Very little of our work with incarcerated women seeks to increase resilience and capitalize specifically on women's roles as mothers in order to improve outcomes ranging from behavioral health to recidivism. We conducted a study of the relationships between interpersonal victimization and serious mental health issues using a random sample of 113 women held in 2 state-level prisons in the Southeast. At the end of a standardized protocol, we asked, how can we better help women like you? Mothering was a prominent theme in the data, and what we heard were stories which did not reflect the narrative of the selfish incarcerated mother. We heard how mothers were forced to make extremely difficult decisions to keep their families together, and in general, they discuss mothering in 3 contexts: before, during, and at reentry. Before women came to prison, they talked about survival and how they were pushed into criminal offending to protect their children. As participant 1 said, when women aren't getting help, they gotta do what they have to do to protect their children. One woman even talked about how she'd taken charges for a teenage son to keep him out of the system, because you gotta do what you gotta do. But even when we consider violent crime, women frame the need to be aggressive, that necessity of violence in their lives, in the context of mothering, of how they needed to engage in certain behaviors to take care of their kids. Participant 9 said, I had to be aggressive in the streets to take care of my kids. I took care of my children, but I had to be aggressive. Likewise, many women in our sample had experienced intimate partner violence in the months leading up to their incarceration. But when they tried to escape those relationships, they found that the domestic violence sheltering system was unable to ensure that they could escape with their children. As participant 11 put it, I tried to get help for domestic violence, but it was separate from my kids. Women mentioned similar struggles in their attempts to access drug treatment. Even though they acknowledged that they needed drug treatment and sought out those services, entering treatment meant leaving their children behind, a choice a mother could not make. Participant 89 suggested, need better support for women and children when they're getting help, like childcare.
So what we heard in these narratives from women prior to incarceration was that they prioritized their children, even if it meant risking their own autonomies and freedoms. As you can imagine, this presented significant struggles for them once they were incarcerated, as they had to develop strategies to maintain connection despite physical separation. This sense of connection, or lack thereof, was a prominent theme in the data. Women noted how there were simply not enough programs that facilitated interaction with their kids. Even when programs existed, there were long wait periods, or their charges restricted them from being able to access the programs. Women talked about the immense burden placed upon family and friends in order to maintain relationships with children. Long, expensive car rides, assuming that they even had cars. As participant 2 said, some people have that support and they take it for granted. They just don't know how lucky they are. Without that support, it was nearly impossible to maintain connection. This presented conflict for women who had made such deep sacrifices for their kids prior to prison, then ended up in a setting that restricted their ability to be the mother that they wanted to be. Participant 9 said, you defeat the purpose here by trying to improve the lives of women, of mothers, by separating her from her kids. And participant 2 remarked, what mother sits here with 2 beautiful kids and doesn't try to help themselves? Women relied on their desire for connection with their children as their motivation to change in a place that doesn't offer much help. They, by focusing on their children's health and well-being, they were able to find a sense of purpose. They embraced and even loved this part of their life. They spoke of altering their behaviors in prison so they could get into parenting programs or get transferred to closer facilities. They sought out ways to improve. They wanted to be different for the kids, and different because of their kids. Women's discussion of their mothering identities highlighted sources of strength, of resilience, and of motivations to change. They did not reflect the dominant narrative of the bad, selfish mom. Instead, they revealed stories of sacrifice, of concern, and of love. Reframing mothering as a strength creates many opportunities for prevention and intervention. As criminal justice settings work to be more gender responsive and trauma informed, we also have to consider the role of motherhood. Mothers are women, and women are mothers. Is separating a low-level drug offender from her child really what's best for society? Can prison programming be flipped to strengthen family relationships? This might look like targeting mothering identities to enhance motivations to change, increasing opportunities for connection through the programming that already exists, or transferring women to facilities that allow for more visits and eases travel burdens. Mothering is a key facet of resilience for incarcerated women. Incarcerated women are mothers who are full of hope and love for their children. They've made many sacrifices in pursuit of connection, consistently demonstrated strength and resilience. Thank you for taking time today to listen to the stories of this women shared.